Good morning on this Friday, May the 14th, 2021. Let it be known this morning we plan to talk to social justice activist, mental health advocate, thought leader, and anti-racism educator Richard Smith. But first, of course, let's bring in the Grand Marshal of the Black Rodeo in Arizona, our president and CEO, Dr. Ben Chavis. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning, Stacey. I'm working on the lighting, but I'm so glad on behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association to greet you and welcome all of our viewers across the country. I'm in Arizona. We're getting ready for the Black Rodeo, sponsored by the Arizona Informant, publisher Clovis Campbell, and our distinguished chair, Karen Carter Richards from the NNPA, is also going to be here from Houston, Texas. We're going to have a great time, but the news continues, and so let's get right to the headlines.
You got it. So, Dr. Chavis, the world's first mass coronavirus inoculation campaign for children kicked off in earnest in the United States on Thursday after the federal government recommended making the Pfizer vaccine available to those ages 12 to 15, even as the decision was embraced by millions of parents who were wearied by pandemic restrictions and desperate to get their children back into the classroom. States, counties, and school districts around the country were trying to figure out the most reassuring and expedient ways to offer the shots. They're planning on having shots at parks and everywhere else that kids are and with their parents. So, Dr. Chavis, this battle against the pandemic has been kicked into high gear, and now children as young as 12 are eligible for the vaccine.
Well, absolutely. They've gone through a process, and keep in mind, there are African Americans at every stage of the development of the vaccine, of the approval of the vaccine, the monitoring of the vaccine. I'm so proud of African American physicians, doctors, researchers, all through the chain of custody of the vaccine to ensure its safety. So I believe that Black America, as we begin to emerge out of this pandemic, we're not out of the woods yet. I want everybody to keep wearing their masks, keep washing hands, keep social distancing, and don't take any unnecessary risks. Even after you've had the vaccination, you should not take unnecessary risk.
Yeah, and so Dr. Chavis, a question. So the CDC yesterday announced that the vaccine, if you're fully vaccinated, you can now go maskless in public. What's your
with certain stipulations? I think what is public. You certainly still want to avoid major crowds. When I flew out on the airline last night, you could not get on that airline if you did not have on a mask. So the airline is a public event, a public travel. So public does not mean willy-nilly. Public means with appropriate caution. If you're in a wide open space where there are not hundreds of people right next to you, yeah, it may be safe. But keep in mind what we reported last year, and now everybody's admitted that the coronavirus is airborne. Yep. So if something is airborne, you don't take it lightly. You have to take it seriously. I know everybody wants to hurry up and take the mask off, but you do it prematurely, you're going to bring death and destruction to your family.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. Back last 1st of April, Dr. Chavis, at your direction, after we had done some research, we were the first, the Black press was the first to declare that the coronavirus was airborne. And you're absolutely right. We still have to take precautions. We are not going against the science. We're going with the science. And the science shows that it is airborne. So we want to continue to encourage all to practice safety. We as an entity cannot declare that the pandemic is over. It's far from over. So let's keep up the fight. In fact, Dr. Chavis, one of our coronavirus task force members, Dr. Ebony Hilton, tweeted out yesterday. She disagrees with this not wearing masks. She strongly disagrees with it, and she says protect yourself. So we take the advice of folks like that as well into consideration.
Absolutely. And Dr. Ebony Hilton is one of the leaders in the medical community, a millennial doctor, and she's close to the ground. She works at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. She actually works in a hospital. She's an anesthesiologist. So she sees firsthand what happens with the victims of coronavirus when in the operating room and they're trying to save their life because they've been exposed and, in fact, infected by the virus. This is still a serious, deadly pandemic. Look what's happening in India, Stacey. People are dying by the thousands every day. You know, it's
Yeah.
so sad, and that's because the government over there did not take proper precautions. It took this thing too lightly, and we don't want that to happen. This thing can reoccur. There are variants out there. So
Yeah.
far, the vaccines are effective against the variants, but again, Black America, because we were already disproportionate, have all these pre-existing conditions, and because Blacks and Latinos were dying, of the hundreds of thousands of people that have died from coronavirus thus far over the last year, Stacey, disproportionately, too many of them have been African American, too many of them have been Brown American, so Latinx American. So we got to take this seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Chavis, we want to say congratulations this morning to Felicia Rashad. Following a comprehensive national search, Howard University announced the appointment of Felicia Rashad as Dean of the recently established or reestablished College of Fine Arts. The legendary Cosby Show actress who graduated magna cum laude with a bachelor's in fine arts from Howard will start her new role on July 1st. Congratulations to Felicia Rashad. What a turn there, Dr. Chavis. She's had such a great career, still has a great career in Hollywood, but she's never forgotten her roots at Howard University.
Well, as a proud graduate of HU, Howard University, I certainly made the right decision by naming Felicia Rashad as the new Dean of Fine Arts at Howard University, our flagship historical Black college and university in Washington, D.C. And we know that the university, the community, Black America, is going to benefit from Dean Felicia Rashad.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always talk about her role as Claire Huxtable, but she's done so much more, including more recently NBC's This Is Us. She's also appeared on Empire. We know all about that show, right? And she's done a lot of things on the OWN network as well. Pixar's animated feature, Soul, Jingle Jango. So much Felicia has done on the stage, A Raisin in the Sun. So congratulations again to Felicia.
So Stacey, now that she's going to be at DC at Howard, we're going to get her on Let It Be Known. I'm also going to have her on the Chavis Chronicles.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be fantastic. We'd love to do that. Dr. Chavis, looking forward to it. In fact, like you said, since she's in DC, we're going to have to capitalize without question. And speaking of Howard University and HBCUs, it's time now to apply for the Chevy and National Newspaper Publishers Association's Discover the Unexpected Fellows Program. HBCU students everywhere are eligible to apply. They will receive a $10,000 scholarship plus a $5,000 stipend. It's a 10-week internship working one-on-one with one of the Black press publishers. You'll gain celebrity mentorship. And Dr. Chavis, a lot of celebrities have been involved over the years, including your friend, MC Lyte. So this is a great program for HBCU students. They'll be able to bring their voices and reporting on platforms like Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and other social media outlets. So apply at www.nnpa.org/ChevyDTU. It's the deadline. So get your applications in, and we wish you the best.
Absolutely. Still have a chance to do it. In fact, today is the last day for registration, Stacey. So please, wake your young people up. If they're already up, if you're watching, make that application in. Get $15,000. That's this summer, starting in June through the first week in August. It's a great opportunity. And be working, I think the 5 cities are going to be Los Angeles, Houston, Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, D.C. I believe those are the cities. We're going to make a more public announcement about where these fellows will be deployed working with the Black press. But all of us will benefit. And then social media. I think all of the publishers who are listening, all of us can improve our social media and metrics. This will complement our print. So we're still printing, we're in digital, and we're in social media. That's the Black Press of America.
Yeah, and Dr. Chavis, our guest this morning is delayed a bit. And in the meantime, Dr. Chavis, I want you to tell us more about the Black Rodeo.
Yes. Again, it starts tomorrow in Phoenix, Arizona. So proud that every year annually, brothers and sisters, men and women, get on horses, get on cows, get on bulls. Now, even though I'm the Grand Marshal, you see those brothers standing on the horses. I would not be standing on any horses or bulls. I'm the Grand Marshal. I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be clapping and encouraging those that get out there. So I'm going to be a journalist tomorrow and observe.
See, I want our viewers, and good morning to Annette Phillips, Michelle Madison, Nicole McDaniel, Bobby Henry, Lynn Spivey. I want our viewers to chime in on that. Should Dr. Chavis get on a horse? I want you guys to write in and tell us, should he get on a horse? We want to see, I know our producer, Enchanta, and myself would love to see Dr. Chavis with a cowboy hat on and on the horse. We want to know.
I'm gonna have a cowboy hat on. I'm gonna have cowboy boots on. But I may take a picture next to a horse or next to a bull. But getting on top of one, I think I want to continue to be the president and CEO of the NNPA, and I don't want to take an unnecessary risk on behalf of the Black press.
Well, Michelle Madison is with you. She says no. But then Tish, I don't know. Tish is saying, "Yeehaw, Doc 2021."
Well, I have a theme. The Black press is going to ride. I got this from Bobby Henry. He said, tell everybody that the Black press is riding and we're going to keep on riding and we're not going to fall off.
And that Philip says, no, he must stay off the horse. So you got some people backing you. I don't know. I want to hear from Bobby. Bobby hasn't said anything. Maybe Bobby is afraid that you might have him get on the horse. So he's not going to say anything.
Well, it's just a great opportunity, in all seriousness, amidst COVID-19, we do need culture. We do need music. Next month is Black Music Month, Stacey. So part of the aspirations of our people is that we work hard, we work smart, but we also hold on to our culture, our music, our entertainment, and African Americans excel in all aspects of life. And to have a Black rodeo where, and I'm serious, men and women, African-American men, African-American women are out there performing with great talent. And that's what we're going to salute, the continued striving for excellence of our people, no matter what the circumstances.
Absolutely. And Dr. Chavis, our guest, has arrived. Social justice activist, mental health advocate, thought leader, and anti-racism educator, Richard Smith joins us. Good morning, Richard Smith.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing good. This is so funny. So good and glad to be with you this morning. Excited for the summer, excited for the sunlight to come out, give us that good vitamin D, to help us with our overall wellness, and just grateful for this opportunity to share some time with you both.
Well, Brother Rich, we appreciate your leadership, man, on behalf of the Black press. And, we need to me, Richard, one of the impacts of COVID, I think there's a greater consciousness now in the Black community about health, the importance of wellness, the importance of really taking care of ourselves. Don't wait till you get sick to be concerned about your health. Be concerned about your health to prevent from getting sick. Talk to us, man, what you have learned and what you do not only with your work, but as a minister, I think what you're doing is a form of ministry.
Yes. Yeah. I think oftentimes we are reactive, right? When it comes to the way that we respond to our mental well-being. And unfortunately, by that time that we react based on what we're feeling and experiencing in that particular moment, it's oftentimes comes at the expense of compromising so many other things in our lives, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our performance at work, how we just interact, how we just show up, right? Because if our mind isn't right, and our mind and our spirit. If our mind and our spirits aren't right, because you're right, it is a sense of ministry. Because the reality is, if our mind and spirit isn't right in the way that it needs to be, it compromises every other interaction that we have. As someone who comes into trauma work, as someone who experienced tremendous amount of trauma, I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, a survivor of community violence, and those things had a lingering effect on me, a tremendous impact on me, that I didn't even understand the depths of for many years. And then I found myself going down this road of self-destruction. And everyone would look at me from the outside looking in and say, what's wrong with him? Why is he constantly choosing to make these types of decisions, to put himself in harm's way? Why isn't he taking advantage of these opportunities that are being given to him? But people didn't understand the impact of trauma. People didn't know the things that I experienced in life as well. And so no one really asked me, and this is like one of the major shifts that took place in the field of trauma work, is no one asked me what happened to you. Everyone asked me what was wrong with you. And that was a major shift that took place in this work around trauma, where we shifted from saying what is wrong with a person to realizing that a lot of times when people are acting in ways that are self-destructive, that are self-sabotaging, that are not benefiting them, it's really an indication that something happened to them. And when you ask that question of what happened to you, it shifts not only just the way that you see that person, it gives you a sense of compassion, a sense of understanding, to know next that the response after that is like, let's talk about how you can get better from what happened to you, how you can heal from what happened to you, in a way that frees you from the bondage of that trauma that you experienced, that hasn't allowed you to live the life in a fulfilled way that I know deep down inside you desire. Because at the end of the day, we all desire to live healthy, well lives. We desire to have healthy and well relationships. And so whenever I encounter someone, whether it's a young person I'm working with, who was, recently released from, incarceration, or a friend of mine who is struggling with a relationship with her partner, whenever I encounter someone like that, and I find out that they're doing things that are counterintuitive to that wellness and what they truly desire, I know something happened to them. But I also know that healing is possible, and that there's an opportunity for us to figure out what's right with them and move forward past that trauma and past that pain.
Wow, Richard, you said a whole lot right there. Let me ask you a question. You mentioned the childhood sex abuse, and at what point, Richard, were you able to? Because a lot of people don't understand it, as you said, and sometimes there are people who are victims who carry that, and they may never say anything. It may never come out. At what point did you feel that you were comfortable enough to talk about that and admit that this happened to you?
Yeah, and this is where I get where I was stating earlier about, oftentimes our reaction isn't until it's too late, right? Or is it like really late in the game? So a couple things that we know about male survivors of childhood sexual abuse. We know that male survivors of childhood sexual abuse, 1 in 6 boys under the age of 18 has experienced childhood sexual abuse. We know 1 in 4 women, girls have experienced, under the age of 18, have experienced childhood sexual abuse. However, here's the thing. The majority of the research for many years, for the last 5 decades, have focused on girls. And more recently, we started to look at the impact of childhood sexual abuse on boys. For many years, we didn't even think about it as a factor that was contributing to the behaviors of boys. My research is actually, my doctoral research is focused on how school social workers serve and interpret the experiences of childhood sexual abuse for boys in comparison to girls. And what I found from that is that school social workers, weren't even inclined to ask if the behaviors that we know are symptomatic of childhood sexual abuse and that type of trauma, they weren't even inclined to ask that young boy if he had experienced something, what happened to you? They weren't asking him what happened to him, not in that context. When Johnny acted up in the classroom, right, it was like Johnny has some behavior issues. It was Johnny is, struggling to be obedient. He was even diagnosed with like being emotionally disturbed. But when a young girl was acting up, one of the first things that came to mind is what's happened to you and what's happening to you in your home. For the boy, that same type of treatment and interpretation of their behavior was not the same. And that's the case in my life as well, right? It wasn't until I went through a series of acting out my entire childhood in school. And the reason why I looked at the school situation, because the onset of childhood sexual abuse for boys is 8 years old. But also the disclosure period is it's much longer. It takes much longer for a boy to talk about it, right? And a big part of that has to do with all of the things that we've internalized as being a man, right? And masculinity that puts us in this cage that even as a boy, if we're experiencing harm, we can't disclose. We don't feel comfortable. We feel like we're less of a man if we talk about the harm that happened to us, especially if it's man on man. So we learn early on as boys that we can't become weak. We can't allow anyone to take advantage of us. And so we don't even share about those experiences of childhood sexual abuse because we feel like it compromised our manhood so early. So you have boys who are not disclosing. You have people who are not asking what happened to you. And it creates this recipe for disaster. And that was the case in my situation, where it wasn't until I found myself getting in trouble constantly in school to eventually being suspended out of school, dropping out of school, and then getting funneled in what they called that school to prison pipeline by the time I was 15. And at the time, at age of 16, found myself incarcerated. And it was there that I had the awakening and awareness when I encountered other men to talk about my experience of childhood sexual abuse, when I encountered so many other guys who had that same type of experience.
Wow. And, there was a FBI report some years ago, about 10 years ago, that suggested that better than 99% of boys who say that they were molested by men tell the truth. And so people need to, as Nicole McDaniel she wrote in too about the importance of many Black people in the country suffering from some form of PTSD is never discussed. So it's time to open our ears. Richard, we really appreciate the fact that you are now strong enough to even publicly talk about this in such a national, international forum, really. So we certainly commend you for that. And for those who might be experiencing some sort of trauma, certainly sexual assault, or have it in their past, there are organizations like RAINN, RAINN.org. There is other organizations called stopitnow.org. There are several places you can go. So please take advantage of these. And Richard, you probably know of other organizations that
right. Men Healing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dr. Chavis, I want to bring you in on this conversation as well.
Well, Richard, as a mental health and wellness expert now, and obviously you're well experienced in this subject matter and you're sharing these truths. That's what the Black press is all about. Sometimes we bring to light subject matters that are not willingly discussed within the African American community. And as you know, mental health is one of those issues. It's sometimes seen as a taboo. But listen, all health issues, mental health, physical health, social health, economic health, cultural health, consciousness of who we are as a people, all these things are interconnected, interrelated. So Richard, I know our audience wants to stay in touch with you. How do people find you, Richard, if they want to ask you questions or want to tap into the wealth of knowledge that you have?
Oh, thank you very much. You can reach me on Instagram. It's at RSS Speaks. You can reach me by email, rsspeaks2021@gmail.com. And also my website can share more information about the work that I'm doing. at richardsmithspeaks.com. And it shares some of the, I share more of the information about the work that I do, as well as ways that you can stay connected to me and the ways that we can collaborate, because, none of these issues happen within a vacuum. And so the experience of childhood sexual abuse and trauma is not separate from the experiences of racial trauma, historical trauma, and ancestral trauma that we experience as Black people. And that's one of the main things that I often emphasize, is that the experience of these various forms of interpersonal trauma that we have as Black and brown people is oftentimes exacerbated by the overall experience of race-based trauma, historical trauma, that doesn't allow for us to have these experiences singularly. We have them in conjunction with so much. And so it takes a ton of effort, it takes collaboration, and it takes collective work and collective healing to help us as a people get beyond that.
Absolutely. It says it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to keep an adult away from trauma, or to deal with trauma. So, and recently I've also been saying it takes people to raise the village. The village itself sometimes needs help. And your expertise, Richard, is so vital. We've gotten a lot of comments on our show this morning. It shows that, we may have to do a second show on this, because
we definitely do.
This is a subject which that, a lot of people avoid, but the Black press, that's what we do. We bring you what not you want to hear, but what you need to hear from an African-American perspective. And when it comes to mental health, when it comes to wellness, these are subject matters that we need to hear.
Yeah. I like that too, Dr. Chavis. The village needs help too. That is so true. Richard, we appreciate you. We, to be honest, I didn't expect it to go all here. There are several other topics we wanted to touch on. We really want you to come back. I'm sure Enchanter will be in touch, our producer, and perhaps we can get back together really soon. This is such an important topic, as well as the other topics that we had intended to talk to you about, including your statements about time to have the uncomfortable conversations about racism as well. So we want to talk about all those things. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being so courageous, Richard. And hopefully we'll get you back really soon. Don't forget to register for the upcoming NMPA virtual convention, which takes place from June 23rd to June 26th. At www.virtualnmpa2021.com. Register right there, virtualnmpa2021.com. It's free, and so much great stuff at this convention. You got to be there to really appreciate it. So many special guests, etc., etc. Don't forget too, Dr. Chavis, of course, is in Arizona, but you can still watch the Chavis Chronicles on PBS TV and PBS World this and every Sunday. Check your local listings. The Chavis Chronicles, you'll hear some great interviews with change makers like Richard Smith. So we really appreciate you all. Let it be known, the man who has confidence in himself gains the confidence of others. Have a great weekend. Wear your mask, and we'll see you on Monday.